Winemaking's difficult because there are no right answers. It's an infinite number of possibilities and flavors, and it's a craft that will never be mastered. It's a journey. It's not just a product.
Excellent. Welcome, everybody, to Wine Stream Wednesday. I'm Florencia Palmaz, and with me is my brother, Christian Palmaz, and sister-in-law, Jessica, calling in from Palmaz Vineyards. I actually decided to come on via my kitchen today, my favorite room, and we're really excited to deliver to you a fun episode. We decided today to share some of our friends and our passion for great food and good ingredients with all of you. It is the season of entertaining, the season of cooking, the season of my favorite thing in the world, which is to gather people around the table. And in order to do that, we thought we'd feature some other ingredients for something a little different. But always in our Palmaz nerdy way, we're always going to have a little twist on it. So instead of just talking about gorgeous vegetables, what we really wanted to dive into today is meaningful, sustainable gardening practices and how sustainability in farming differs from wine to beef to vegetables. So we searched the country and found the most amazing sustainable farm for culinary vegetables in the country. An amazing story, an extraordinary family business, and it is our pleasure to be able to feature Farmer Jones and Farmer Jones Farm products here shortly. But before we go there, we thought we would share with you a little bit of happenings along in the vineyard. Chris, you've got some gorgeous color out there. I'm sure you can show off some really pretty fall.
We really do. It's awesome. It's like a favorite time of year. You know, the rains have returned. I can't tell you how, nice it is. It's been raining for the last, 24 hours. And it's a big sigh of relief. And the colors, right?
Finally, it's right? It's so happy. It was so late this year. I was praying for rain.
Yeah, it was. It's been quite a challenge. And, for me, who loves to talk about vigor and all the colors that, vigor does, this is like the one time a year where this image, which is the actual NDVI imagery, starts to look like the real thing. And it's amazing. The vineyard, as it starts to leaf change, lose its leaves, and, go through this fall transition, it's showing us basically our how diverse and how even the ripeness was on, a lot of these parcels. So it's a big validation moment for us to see how the vineyard is sort of putting itself to bed for the season.
Absolutely. Conversely, there's a little bit, and I won't dive into this too deeply, but it is an interesting time to also see early warning systems, where as we're walking through the vineyard and enjoying all this gorgeous fall color, when you suddenly see a row or a single vine dramatically different in color from its brothers and sisters in the field, we know that something is going on differently with that individual vine. So like you said, it's a visual vigor in the fall and gives us a chance to kind of go and have sneak peeks and pay attention to maybe either of a section of the vineyard is not shutting down on time with the rest of it. Maybe that was too much water, or the reverse where they shut down a little early. Maybe they need some nutrients. So it's a really nice time to kind of see how they're all tucking themselves in. At the same time, a big thing that's going on in the vineyard is cover crop seeding and hay. We've got huge piles of hay out in the fields right now, and we are literally hand scattering a nice little nest of blanket of hay on every other row in the entire vineyard. It's really quite a sight.
Yeah. For our erosion control plan.
Exactly.
It's good to actually have some rain to worry about for erosion. So, but that is the purpose. That's why we put the hay out there, to help keep our topsoils in place until so we freshly disc the fields, and then we'll seed them with the cover crops that will eventually grow and be the nutrient-rich contributor to the soil. And then, of course, right over the seed to help keep the seed in place from not blowing around and also keep the birds from eating the seed. We put a nice little blanket of hay to kind of help lock it in.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk more about cover crop management here in a minute. In the meantime, let's please bring on our guest, an extraordinary gentleman, Chef Farmer Lee Jones, based out of Ohio. It's been in his family for many generations. Chris, I know you can speak to the history of the farm.
No, Farmer Lee Jones is amazing. I mean, what a master of his craft, right? And a herald vegetable producer across the globe, really. I mean, you're talking about the go-to guy for culinary vegetables that have supported some of the best 3 Michelin star restaurants around the world. Chefs know him by his first name. And, it's an amazing situation that's happened because of COVID and restaurants being so impacted. Farmer Lee Jones has had to kind of pivot the company a little bit, and it's actually created an amazing opportunity for end consumers. And so, without further ado, let's bring him on.
This is the gentleman who's the secret garden behind Daniel Boulud, behind Chef Thomas Keller, behind some of really all the top restaurants around the country. They all know him. Charlie Trotter. I could go on and on and on. It's like this guy's touched and spoken to all of my icons in the food industry. And we finally get to find out what was the secret behind all these chefs.
Farmer Lee, how are you?
Hello, I can't hear you. Hello?
Can you hear us?
Can hear you.
No, I got it. Florencia, you don't clean up too bad, as we say on the phone. Wow.
I told you I would clean up for the show. If
I would have known, I would have put a brand new bow tie on.
Well, I do love the look. I wish I had a signature uniform that I wore every day and became iconic. That must be really easy to get up in the morning and dress for.
Yeah, yep. Well, you'd look way sexier in a red bow tie than I do.
Ooh, I don't know. Well, cheers to that. I'll drink to that.
Yeah. Cheers.
Oh my God, how much fun.
We have lots of lights all around.
For all of our viewers, I apologize. We all had a rocking fun pre-call yesterday. And right off the bat, I could tell that Mr. Jones totally clued into all of our families, like ticks and tricks, and kept on egging us on. So we had a ton of fun. We're really excited to be able to share with you all a little bit about what we learned about, but we want to hear more. We want to know all the secrets to your incredible vegetables. When I received the first box, I literally opened it. First of all, I wanted to share this with everybody. Every single package, when you get any of his vegetables, have your name on it. So this said, picked for Florencia Palmaz. That I just adore. Just makes me so happy. So we had in the box microgreens, fresh herbs, flowers, gorgeous turnips and carrots and radishes, cabbage, just amazing assortment of vegetables. I opened the box and it was literally the first time I thought, wow, why do I bother gardening? This guy does it so much better than I do. And then to make matters worse, I started then cooking with all of these things and made a salad that was absolutely incredible. And I didn't have to pick out all the worms that I usually have to do in my garden. The radishes were amazing. It just went on and on. And it was like a week-long love affair with all of your vegetables. So as soon as I had a chance, we called the marketing team and said, we've got to do something. This is an amazing company. And it's not often that we just pour out a mutual crush on another business. And we just couldn't help ourselves with this one. So congratulations. You've really built an amazing business. Tell us how it all came to be. How did you end up becoming the country's best grower?
Well, I hesitate in accepting that. There's so many great growers out around the country. We have been fortunate and have hooked up with some really amazing chefs over the last 35 years, but we evolved to where we are now through desperation. We were farming chemically. We were farming commercially on a very large scale. And maybe some of the listeners can remember back to the times of 22% interest rates in the late 70s, early 80s. And we got wrapped up in 22% interest rates. They're about 2.5 or 3% today in retrospect. And we had a very devastating hailstorm on our farm, and it literally wiped out the entire crop. And the banks closed the farm down. And I stood at 19 years old with my mother and father, my brother and sister, all of our neighbors, all of our competitors, everybody that was there to celebrate our failure. And they auctioned off the entire farm a piece at a time, right down to my mother's car and our house. And we started back over at farmers markets. We met a European influenced chef, and her name was Iris Balin. She had trained in Europe. She was looking for products that had flavor, products grown without chemical, product grown in the right way. And it really resonated more with my dad because what she was looking for had existed in America. It's just that at some point along the way, we lost our way when it became a two-household workplace. And everything then became about convenience. Do you guys remember, of course, the TV dinner, frozen TV dinner? And,
yes.
The pendulum switched, it swung, and it all became about convenience. And so we lost our connection with where our food sources are coming from. And, here was this lady that in a chef's jacket. We knew nothing about chefs. And she says, grow this the right way, grow for the flavor, don't worry about the tons per acre, worry about the flavor per mouthful. And it, again, really resonated with Dad. And so we abandoned the farmers markets, which we started back over at, and totally focused all of our needs on chefs. We hooked up with a chef by the name of Jean-Louis Paladin, who was highly talented at the Watergate Hotel in DC. And he turned us on to Daniel Boulou and Jean-Georges Von Richten and Alain Ducasse. And then, of course, the American chefs followed, Charlie Trotter, Thomas Keller, and so many, and I hate to start naming people because there's been so many great chefs that, have helped us along the way and really have kind of molded us into growing. The three most important things we heard from chefs over the last 35 years was flavor was first, flavor was second, and flavor was third. And that's really been the focus of our work.
That's amazing. It makes, what year did all that start? What year did you encounter that?
We lost the farm in about 82, and we started right back over in 83. I could tell you stories that you just wouldn't even believe. We were in survival mode, and we've just been very, very blessed to have gotten to work with some of the very best chefs. For a dirt farmer like me to have gotten to experience some of the parties and the James Beard Awards, and they invited me on as an Iron Chef judge. I've gotten to see it, do a lot. And of course I go to these events and the guys are in 3-piece tuxedos and the women in evening gowns. And, I walk in a pair of overalls and a white shirt and a red bow tie. There's an old saying on the farm that you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. So I might as well just go as a farmer. Have you guys ever heard that before? No.
Unfortunately, our South American mother just didn't have those colloquialisms at home. We missed out on all the fun Americana sayings. I can tell you have no idea how many references we hear, and we're like the most clueless kids on earth. We unfortunately grew up with a mother who always cooked, and we came from Latin America where everyone knew their local vegetable purveyor, and you ordered on the phone whatever was available, and you had amazing produce because we were very connected still to the farms just outside of the city. And when we came to America, I'll never forget the very first response that my mother had. My mother had two responses. We come to the United States. This was in '78. We walk into a first supermarket, and she was shocked by just the number of aisles, right? The size of the supermarket and the fluorescent lights and the shiny linoleum floors and aisle after aisle after aisle of products. And that for her was like amazing, so clean. It felt so hygienic and safe to her, right? That was that first impression, which I think so many people, in the food world at first were celebrating that industrialization of food that we experienced. And then she turned around and was fascinated and discovered things like minute rice and Spam and God, what were the other ones, Chris? I mean, you know, wine in a box.
Instant polenta, Sara Lee, like everything Sara Lee.
Sara Lee. My mother thought Sara Lee was a person, right? She would open the freezer doors and be like, "Look at this woman, Sara Lee is so busy. Look at all these cakes she makes." And we would shop, and it was interesting because you know we were really young, and for Mom, this was this adventure in America, and it took us, I kid you not, maybe 6 months to do a full 180 and say, our stomachs don't feel right. This doesn't feel right. I'm disconnected from, you know, from food at home. We missed cooking. And so she pulled a full 180 and stopped shopping in supermarkets, started baking her own bread again. Pardon me. Coco really wants to answer the door. I'm going to answer it for him. I'll be right back. Chris, why don't you take over? Tell him all about Mom's cooking.
My gosh, it is a live show, isn't it? You know what's funny is that it is true. You know, we grew up with this sense of the grocery store being sort of the vegetable garden, and you know, it's amazing how false of a narrative that can be for everybody, and we all know that. And Farmer Jones, you make such a great you know, emphasis that we really have a lot of Americans have lost touch with the seasons and cooking from the seasons and the seasonality of all these amazing things and the natural diversity that exists across, you know, I mean, it's endless, the species and diversity that is in vegetables. And we lose that, right? We forget that asparagus has a season. But when we go to the grocery store, it's always there, right? And you don't get to know. It's not like they go and put a sign out that says, "Hey, now it's from Chile," right? And so, you know, I know your chefs. You know, you probably take this for granted because, of course, the chefs know this, and they do. You know, that's one of the wonderful culinary adventures that chefs get to take us on, is that they professionally know this. But now, through your new effort, now that this incredible produce is available, you know, sort of direct to consumer, we now get to see this from your eyes. Tell us a little bit about that. What is coming in these boxes, and what are you selecting for everybody, you know, throughout the season, and what does that mean for the whole program?
Well, you know, it's really a continuation. We have, for the last 37 years, worked directly with chefs, and, you know, we hear from people that were saying that they wanted to get the product at home, and we just didn't have time. We felt that we had to stay focused on it, and we all know the situation we all find ourselves in since March, that the restaurants are struggling, some of them are closed, and we had to pivot. So in March, we pivoted because this seemed like a natural way for us to be able to help society, to be able to get quality ingredients to their homes, and where they knew that there was somebody conscientious on this end doing it right. And, you know, Mother Nature does provide such a natural rhythm. And it's really an extension of what we've done for the chefs, for the Michelin star chefs for the last 35 years. You know, the best thing that we ever heard from chefs was, "Farmer, what am I going to put on my menu next week?" Because, you know, these guys are changing their menus up daily, weekly. It's not like where they're doing a printed menu that lasts for the quarter. They're changing these menus up all the time. Charlie Trotter never served the same dish twice, you know, and his recipes literally changed every single day. But it's about what Mother Nature will give up, and it's about working in harmony with nature rather than trying to outsmart it. Look, I love asparagus too. And when it's in season, I think we should eat it 3 times a day. When it's out of season, we should lust for it for 10 more months. Because, you know, there's just such a natural rhythm to what comes next. And I think really the more in tune we can get with our bodies, sometimes your body will even tell you, I don't know whether you guys have ever had this experience where it says, "I need Swiss chard, I need red beets, I need," you know, when we were kids, National Geographic, they actually talked about women that would actually eat dirt. Now, they didn't know what they needed, but their bodies instinctively knew that there was a mineral that they were deficient in, and they were eating that. Well, the more in tune we can get it with our body, it'll tell us what we need. And if you can follow the natural rhythms, it'll feed you what you need. And of course, my body tells me I need wine pretty frequently. So
yes,
Mine too.
Mine too.
I couldn't agree with you more on that. There is something, we experience that actually at the ranch. When we're raising the beef, we found that the more intuitive mineral supplement program for the cattle is to give them a bar. So we have a salt bar where there's different elements that are featured in different salts available for them to self-feed. So rather than us thinking that they need a certain amount of iron and a certain amount of magnesium in their diets, they actually go and they are in tuned enough to go, and you'll see it. You'll see, mothers that are weaning will tend to prefer a different salt. And then, as the babies are getting older and their bodies are changing back, they'll switch to other salts. It's an incredible process, and it's actually, that example is exactly what sort of told me, boy, I need to start paying attention to my cravings and let my cravings dictate a little bit more what I eat.
Absolutely. And I think the more in tune we can get with our bodies, and listen to them, listen to what they tell us, then you really can. But, we go back a little bit further. I love that idea of putting out the different minerals and letting them pick, because they will pick. And I'm sure it's very curious for you to see that there's ones that they go after more than others. And we're trying to take an even deeper step to that, a little bit more scientific. We put a lab in, and we actually have 3 scientists right on the farm. We think that ultimately everything boils back to the study of the soil and the health and the well-being of the soil. We worked with a fellow by the name of Dr. Scow. He was an animal veterinarian, and he kept continuing to see these occurrences in livestock. And those occurrences could actually be, when you graph them out, you could lay the occurrences for people over them, and they would follow in an exact parallel. Some of the same diseases, some of the same issues in livestock happen in people. And so it comes back to the health and the well-being of the soil. For us, it's really important and imperative that we get that soil in balance. What we'll do is do lab analysis on the soil. Just like if the listeners were to go and have blood work drawn, you find that you're high in iron, low in iron, high in calcium, low in calcium, you find out what's going on. Then based on those deficiencies, and what's really cool, again, it ties back to Mother Nature and really working with her rather than trying to outsmart her. So based on those deficiencies in the minerals that we find, different types of plants will harvest different types of energy from the sun. Now that sounds a little crazy, but think about it. We go outside and we harvest vitamin D, right? We all get that. We go out, I need vitamin D, I'm gonna go get some sunshine. Different types of plants will harvest different types of energy from the sun. So based on the deficiencies that we find in the soil, then we plant crop specific. So 2/3 of our acreage, which is an unprecedented amount of commitment of land, 2/3 of our total acreage is committed to harvesting the energy from the sun. So it could be buckwheat, it could be alfalfa, it could be clover, it could be vetch, it could be Sudan grass. Based on the deficiency, different types of plants, and you harvest that energy, or the plant harvests that energy from the sun, it goes down through the stem, into the roots, into the soil. Then when we plant the turnip or the beet or the carrot or the radish or the spinach or the tomato or whatever it is we want to eat, when we eat that, it builds our immune system. It's more like an Eastern culture of get the body in balance to defend against the disease in the first place, where the Western culture, driven by dollars, driven by money, driven by pharmaceuticals, want to get you well rather than keep you well. So it's a matter of, you want to take the chemicals or take the pharmaceutical drugs to try and fix the problem that you have, or get the body in balance to defend against the disease in the first place. So for us, it's really about balance, and it starts fundamentally with the soil.
That's so cool that you use innovation front and center to do that. And that was one of the first things that we were, learning about your process. I don't know why, but I kind of expected not to see so much innovation. I thought it was more of a seat of the pants kind of approach. But honestly, just like we do in the vineyard farming, where innovation is becoming more and more prevalent, I was so amazed and surprised at how the lengths you go to analyze and put metrics and make decisions based on metrics, and realizing how critically important the soil is. And that's a big point.
Even more amazing to that is this idea that all that technology is being used for actually the confirmation of ancient technologies, right?
That's
Of
right.
something that
Right.
generations have known forever. So you're not
Forever.
changing the way things are done. You're confirming with science. It's very much, we use our innovation to observe how wine should be made and help us be a little bit more intuitive, but we would never abandon the approach of traditional winemaking.
Of course,
You know,
right.
You can never automate the production of a tomato, right? You're not about to 3D print a tomato like we are not about to, 3D print wine.
Right.
But we're
Yeah.
going to use a lot of technology to our benefit.
Absolutely. And we think as a small family farm, I mean, if you think about it, it's one of the few things that's continued to get more and more affordable over time. 10 years ago, everybody had a Garmin and it was $300. Today, it's all here. Technology continues to get more and more affordable. We have to embrace technology as a small family farm to be sustainable. Technology is a critical part of sustainability because that technology is there. My dad had a saying that, the best fertilizer that you could put on your crops was that on the bottom of your shoe. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's that intuitiveness that in many ways, particularly in vegetable, we lost that. And we lost a generation because Earl Butz, Secretary of Agriculture for the United States, said get big or get out. And everything was driven by, you can put chemical on, you can put synthetic fertilizers on, we can mimic doing it the old fashioned way, and we can increase the yields. Everything became about the tons per acre rather than the integrity per mouthful. And so that intuitiveness, we depend on that, we rely on that, but it's affirmation with the technology that we're on the right track. Or wait a minute, you dummy, you better get this figured out. You're really not in balance here. And so we use that as a tool to guide us. But intuition and being able to walk those fields and look at the plants and understand and pull them up and look at what's going on underneath in the roots, it's just that intuition will never stop. Absolutely.
Well, that really is the ultimate sustainable farming. I mean, that is the definition of sustainable farming right there. That's amazing. So
we have a saying in Argentina, just on that, we have a saying in Argentina that is very similar to what your father's saying, which is el ojo del dueño se engorda el ganado, which means the eye of the owner is what makes the cattle fat.
Perfect. Yeah, I love that. And that's pretty damn Wagyu.
Oh yeah, wow. You really got to stare at them to get them that fat.
So, Farmer, tell us a little bit about the Culinary Vegetable Institute and what started this. And I hear you say over and over again that flavor drives really everything you do there. So I imagine, working with Chef Jamie Simpson and the Culinary Vegetable Institute, was that sort of the driving nexus to sort of make sure that the quality was there, and make sure that you were always close to culinary vision?
Well, being close to culinary vision was certainly critical. All of us is smarter than one of us. And we have a saying on the farm sometimes that we suffer from incest. And I mean that's kind of a crude form, but the point is that as farmers, we would tend to look at things just from a farmer's perspective. And we wanted to build a place for the most innovative chefs in the world to be able to come and to be able to collaborate and to teach us. We came into this knowing about agriculture, but one segment of that. And here was a group of chefs, a lot of them trained in Europe. Of course, Ritz-Carltons were huge for us, and they were steeped in European chefs that were, again, without chemical, grow for the flavor, grow for the flavor, grow for the flavor, grow for the integrity. And so it was a place where the chef and farmer could work together in a symbiotic environment, go into the fields with us, look at products. One of the things that we've learned from chefs in the United States, we tend to be kind of tunnel vision because we see something at a particular size. For example, let's say a cucumber. I say a cucumber. We all go exactly to the same size cucumber. It's this long. It's this big around. It's got nasty wax on it, and they're two for $1.99 in the store. Okay, and the seeds are too big to eat. And a chef is in the field, and we're on our knees, and we're looking at the plant, And he's looking at the cucumber and he says, you know, I know I'm going to ask something or say something kind of stupid, but I never thought about the cucumber being 1 inch long with a bright yellow blossom still attached to it. Could I get them this size? This is the sexiest thing I've ever seen. Well, at every single stage of a plant's life, it offers something unique to the plate. Looking at a squash, and we had Jose Andreas, the same situation. We're on our knees together looking. This is about 3 years ago. And he opened up the squash blossom, and he saw the little stamen within there, and he created a product out of that, and he called it an Ohio morel, because it had a little button to it that looked like a morel, but it was a squash morel. Andrew Carmelini, who has restaurants all over the country now, started as a dishwasher 15 miles from here in a kitchen at 14 years old. And we were looking at the haricot vert French bean. And again, he said, I never thought about the haricot vert being this size before it's this size. And it's about the thickness of 3 pencil leads. And he says, can we get them? And I said, well, chef, we could, but the only problem is I don't know what we're going to call them. Well, we have a trademark on Carmelini beans now. And of course, his name is Carmelini. And it takes 3 men an hour to pick a pound. So it's obviously not something that you're going to apply with tongs. You may make a dish and then float 3 of the Carmelini beans on the top. But the Culinary Vegetable Institute was really designed for a place for chefs to come and do R&R and R&D. It's evolved into a place for companies to be able to come with their clients and to have a nice retreat, be able to integrate and cook together, or us to cook for them. And use products and look for ways to be able to explore and innovate and think about products in different ways.
Oh, that is gorgeous. And one of the best things about it is that you literally are one of the forces that is moving that pendulum back to hopefully bring our agriculture back into balance. And the products that you're producing are just extraordinary. We're really grateful. And to remind everybody, I mean, this really is. These are the weird silver linings. As hard as COVID is, it's an extraordinary silver lining to think that what your force pivot, just like our force pivots to come online and start doing these, is something to the benefit of the consumers at large. Of course, today in our space, it's not going to be for the mass market. It is still in the luxury market, but the luxury market often innovates. Is often the innovator and the forerunner of a lot of some of the greatest movements, and especially in agriculture, where we're seeing that today. So thanks to you. We're very excited. Well, I know that our little restaurant up at the ranch has signed on and has started a wholesale account. And
Chef Nate is so excited.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you what a privilege it was for Chef Jamie, so that who works at the Culinary Vegetable Institute. He basically took all the products between our wines, the Brasas beef. I think he was working with the New York Strip, and he created what he calls the ultimate steak night, and it was ultimate, right? So he built basically some classic recipes using different vegetables, all in season. And he did a beautiful job. You can actually see these recipes right above the stream. You'll see a link that links off to the blog that has all of Chef Jamie's recipes, some incredible stuff. I love that the cauliflower. Yeah, it's incredible, and it's simple. It's not intimidating. I followed the recipes myself. If I wasn't intimidated, believe me, no one else would be intimidated. And but you can tell that it really puts these incredible, indulgent products right front and center. And it was such a pleasure to work with him. And he really, of course, made the beef just front and center, and Flo and I were talking about this earlier, that in the American steakhouse, although we put so much emphasis on the beef itself, it's actually the sides that are oftentimes the most intricate or interesting, because we really oftentimes just leave the beef rather plain, right? Salt, pepper. But it's the sides that are so important. Of course, what makes these, kind of great American steakhouse experiences is the level of the ingredients and the quality. I know Chef Jamie was telling me that he started by sous videing the New York strip, and then he just lightly seared it. So it was such a great, we're so lucky that he was able to do this with us. It was a lot of fun.
Well, great. Now I'm hungry.
No.
I just love the collaboration of the beef, the wine, and the vegetables. And Amy does call wine the third, one of the food elements in this mix. But it's just a wonderful collaboration of the best ingredients that you can get. And the reality is people are eating at home more, and they want good ingredients at home. And so it's a good opportunity to get the dust off of the stoves for folks at home and really cook some amazing food and have some great wine with it.
I find sourcing good products, especially since the shelter in place, the first thing I started doing was calling up all the amazing product sources I know. And I was shamelessly mail ordering myself all my comforts. And of course, my comforts, being a very fairly fancy Napa, vintner, was truffles, great cheeses, heirlooms, sushi grade seafood, air freighting vegetables from your place. And it was actually such a simple and elegant and really an incredibly healthy way to find comfort at home during stressful times. And I'm right back to doing it for the holidays. Right. The amount of air freight. So my interruption on the Airstream was literally the doorbell for the huge stack of packages that are now sitting at my front door that, of course, I'll be bringing in here shortly. But it's a real pleasure to see you, putting that effort. I know that it was no small effort to take, such a prestigious operation as yours and go retail. And again, I encourage all of our friends and our followers out there to check out the retail site. Let me just make sure I have this right. Is Farmer Jones Farms. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's farmerjonesfarm.com. And actually, right down below, we have kind of put together a kit following, of course, Chef Jamie's advice to kind of recreate that dinner with his recipes. Is the best of the season vegetable box, which is, you can basically get a kit just in time for the holidays. We paired some New York strips and some ground beef from the Brasas Club offerings from the Genesee Valley Ranch. And of course, we talked about this last episode, but the Cedar Knoll Vineyards Magnums for this, like a great holiday wine at a slightly lower cost. And of course, the Palmaz if you want to go all out. So that's all available right down below. You can just click those links. And then, of course, go visit farmerjonesfarm.com. So.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It has been an absolute pleasure. It's been a delicious week. And I look forward to diving into my second box now this week. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Yes, absolutely. Have a great holiday. Yep, stay healthy.
Oh, we will. We will. I've got all these vitamins literally in a box.
That's right.
Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye.
Cheers. So awesome.
Yeah.
Their social media is actually really fun, and they do a great job of kind of taking you into the farm and being able to watch a little bit of what goes on. And it's so different from what we do, right? Because we don't turn the crops over. Our vineyards are essentially monocrop; they're not turned over, so we don't. It makes it a challenge because we have to preserve the soil. We can't fallow the soil. But you can tell the emphasis that goes into the nutrients and how important that soil is for making these flavor profiles that are so critical.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a real pleasure to learn about their technology. That laboratory that he's talking about is no small feat, and an incredibly unusual task for a vegetable operation like theirs. So switching gears, I'm looking at this. I'm so distracted. I'm already in my mind thinking the ultimate salad tonight. We've got a few days till Thanksgiving. I know that today is the cutoff, or was the cutoff for Thanksgiving deliveries guaranteed. Is that correct? So sorry, guys, that ship has sailed. I hope you all got your Riesling orders in and your Magnum orders in. But, you know, Thanksgiving is not just the day of, it's the whole weekend afterwards. And of course, we have the holiday seasons coming up. So we are still talking about what to do for those grand family tables that we're hoping that we can all safely get to and enjoy this holiday season. We thought tonight we would feature a classic, 2017 Cabernet. This is our current release. It is tasting absolutely beautiful, an extraordinary vintage, great concentration, really fresh, also young. So the nice thing is it's not something you need to feel obliged to put in cellar and store. We just recently started offering this to the general public. It's no longer under allocation. So if you are new to our brand, feel free to come check us out. Like Chris said, this is in the foot of the wine stream, but also feel free to shop around and check out the rest of the website. We do have several wines. Of course, the Cabernet is our eponymous wine and is our main feature. We do have a little bit of Chardonnay, Riesling, and Muscat for that first course, salad course, and dessert course after this fabulous main course, which for us is Cabernet. Chris, do you want to go through a little bit the technical notes of the 17 Cab?
Yeah, we can actually. So we're actually drinking the 16 Cab. So you are.
Oh, I'm drinking 17.
Well, we'll do both then.
As you can tell, clearly we're in two different places. I had 17 in my kitchen. Well, by all means, enjoy both.
Flo always gets the early release. But because I'm stubborn, I'm going to do the 16 first.
Yes, please.
You know, it was like the high level on both of these vintages. They were both fantastic. The 16 was you know, a lot like 18. It was a great vintage. Of course, 17 was the infamous year of the fires, but they don't really play a role in this wine because the 22% of the fruit left over after the fire, as we have said over and over again, it basically was not picked, right? So it basically, never made it to the wine. So what's in the bottle doesn't tell the story of that infamous event. And so we're very fortunate. So yeah, I mean, 16 to 17, Flo, the 16. So tell us a little bit about, what you're tasting in the glass compared to these two.
Absolutely. So 16, I can tell you from memory, we've been enjoying that vintage all year long. It's of sort of that 5-year perspective. The 16 is really the round and beautiful balanced version of its brothers. It's got a really nice mid palate to it. 16 also has, I would say, a slightly more polished or bright, ripe fruit element on the top. Can be an extraordinarily versatile of a lot of the Cabernets we've made most recently. It's really very pretty. 17, conversely, is a wine that has a little bit more structure, has a little bit more edge. Thankfully, it is not compromised by quality at all. So, while a lot of wineries were suffering in compromised production facilities because of power outages and firefighting, we were thankfully able to stay on property and manage the winery the entire time. And I feel like this wine really shows its perseverance. It's got an incredibly long finish. It's a really slick, when I mean slick, I mean by incredibly focused and long polished body to it. So a little bit more brawny, a little bit more structure. Probably better.
How much of that do you think is related to its young age versus what you expect this? Because of course, we're tasting the 16. It's a year. It's a year in the tasting room. Yeah. I feel like just as these wines are about to leave us and no longer be available, they tend to do their best. But 17 has something unique about it. It does have that brawny character. Is it its youth, or is it at the way the wine is?
No, I think we've been now tasting wines on release and blending sessions enough to kind of be able to guess where they're heading. And 17 definitely seems to, even though it is definitely youthful and is a little tighter right now, seems to show and remind us of those historically really much brawnier years. 15 is a great example. 2009, another great example. These were vintages that had just really great tannin structures, and they just have that sort of leaner, longer finish. That translates to wines that are incredibly good in the cellar. 17 is a little bit different in many ways, in which we were really pleased by how well it's showing now. You know, there's been vintages, and I will be always straight with you when I find a vintage that's sort of tight and shy. And you'll catch me use all sorts of cute euphemisms like, oh, this one's, you know, she's just a little slow to get started, or, you know, no, not this guy.
No.
He's
Yeah,
coming
no,
right up out of the glass and he's
are,
saying hello. So
yeah.
um, it's really a very promising year. We're really pleased. We've been incredibly blessed in Napa. Honestly, we've had an extraordinary decade when it comes to quality. Very few missteps, and it, you know, like Mr. Lee Jones was saying, you know, it's really about the farming and the intuition of the soil. We've been very attentive to our soils, and we've got really great balance, and that balance is translating in the wines and in the fruit expression really nicely.
Oh. Well, that's awesome. It's been an awesome episode. I'm really glad. This has been a long time in the works. We've been working with Farmer Lee Jones's team for a couple months on this episode, so yeah. I'm glad it finally happened. I am starving because of all these incredible imagery that's staring me in the face.
What was that, like cream Swiss chard? Was
yeah,
that what that was?
I think that was
Swiss
cream spin. Yeah, and absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I have it here. I mean, the firmness and the tenderness of these leaves are amazing. I mean, I get it. Like that's the only way you make that kind of gorgeous Swiss chard is when they're really young and tender like this. Absolutely. You know, one of the things that we're planning on doing with the show, for those of you who follow along, about once a quarter, so once every 3 months, we will be looking out for interesting and inspiring other farmers or producers of extraordinary products here in the United States. We look forward to sharing with you their stories. We are a community at the end of the day, and I love to share that community with all of you who we consider the smartest and most inspired consumers in the country. So look for that. We will be slowly putting together the schedule for 2021. But before we do that, we've actually got a really great show set up for next month, pardon me. My father and the lead engineer who designed the cave itself is agreed to come on to tell us all the dirty backstory of how we dug the cave. And it was dirty. Whew. There is so much dirt that had to come out of the ground to dig that cave. So
it is going to be a hard hat episode. And
it's a hard hat episode. Absolutely.
It's so cool, though. So cool. I mean, you know, Graham Wozencroft is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about, you know, the largest soft rock excavation of a single unsupported dome in North America, which was, of course, the fermentation dome, and all the things, lots of firsts that these guys just fearlessly attacked during the design of this place. And you know, if you're the engineer, if you like kind of the nuts and bolts side of things, you will definitely not want to miss this one.
Absolutely. And we're really excited to have Graham and Dad agree to come on and talk to us about how they also came with the design itself. You know, this was not something that any single person woke up one day and said, oh, we're going to build the world's largest underground gravity flow winery. No, this thing was a process, and how that process came to be is actually a story in and of itself. So Dad's going to be sharing with you how he came about and his commitment to building a gravity flow winery like ours. And hopefully it'll help you understand a little bit about how crazy we really are. With that show, and I have not talked to Jessica yet about this, but I'm calling you out live on the air. I'm hoping that you can dig really deep in your cellar and that we can actually feature a vintage from the years of the dig. So I challenge Jess and the whole inventory team to go dive into the cellar.
It has to be 04. And I know it's impossible to get, but 04, the first vintage made by Gravity.
Okay. I'll see what I can do. Challenge accepted.
So Kyle, Andrea, I know you're watching this. start counting bottles and start hiding them.
That's
because
exactly
we're going to
right.
release a really small number of 04 bottles for our followers of the wine stream to drink and enjoy along with us on the next episode.
We may have to, I hope we don't have to dip into Mom Cellar.
Well, Mom, Dad, you're not, don't hear it.
Yeah.
You didn't hear anything.
Yeah.
Hey, that'll be on the episode. So
That's right. That's right. So it'll be good. And, and the
He'll have
date,
motivation.
do we have a date for that?
December 16th.
December 16th.
Yep.
4:00 Pacific time. And as you can see now, we're able to access the wine stream directly on our website. It's available, pass messages anytime, just log on. You no longer have to hunt for the email that we send to you. And we look forward to having you join us on December 16th. In the meantime, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Stay safe, enjoy each other, and we hope to see you at our table soon. Thank you, everybody.
Absolutely. Cheers.
Cheers, everybody. Cheers.